Our war on terror begins with al-Qaeda, but it does not end there. It will not end until every terrorist group of global reach has been found, stopped, and defeated.
Those who tend to forget the past are doomed to repeat it. I'm sorry for the haggard look, still under the weather. The Syrian transnational government, or the provisional government under its terrorist leader, Abu Mohammed al-Jolani, who, by the way, I'm not going to address under his new name, which is Ahmed al-Shara. It's funny that he changed his name because only because his former name has a long history of murder behind him. He's a terrorist. He was once wanted by the U.S. government for a hefty price, along with his group, the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. All of a sudden, the guy puts on a suit and tie, and the progressives in this country actually claim that he is the better option than Bashar al-Assad. Well, I think that none of the options were good. You got rid of a dictator, a murderous dictator, for a murderous terrorist. And the silence is deafening because in the last 2 days, there have been dozens of videos that I have scoured on the internet, especially in Twitter and Facebook and other avenues, where people are up. And then these are people in Alawite cities that are showing you the provisional government led by Anas Khattab, and Anas Khattab, who is the director of the General Intelligence Service, also high-ranking former member of the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, and al-Jolani, who are ordering their army to slaughter or to capture any Alawite. And then the press in this country are claiming that the provisional government under al-Shara is fighting against Assad loyalists. Now, that's not accurate. Were there Assad loyalists? Yes. Are they all Assad loyalists? No. In the same fashion as what we're seeing with Gaza. According to the Israeli government and their supporters, Palestinians are either Hamas or Hamas supporters. To the al-Jolani supporters, either everyone is an Alawite and a backer of Assad or a supporter of Assad. Either way, they have to be captured or killed. And, it's like, what else do we need to remind ourselves that we have a history in this country, especially when it comes to the intelligence services and the Department of Defense and the State Department, where you have a short-term relationship with either dictators or terrorist thugs to achieve a political goal. This is the definition of terrorism. I didn't make it up. It's in the dictionary. And with this comes millions of dollars in support to these monsters, because in this country, we only ally ourselves with monsters. And the proof of the pudding is look who is considered our allies. Two of the worst governments on the face of the earth, Israel and Saudi Arabia. Okay. One is a religious and secular nationalist entity, and the other is a family of 7 sons called the Sudari Seven, led by the Wahhabi principles, who are told to tone it down after 9/11 because, hey, you were responsible for 9/11, and we're basically giving you, billions of dollars in weapons. I think you owe us that, and I think you better reform, or else we're going to have to do something. And then Saudi Arabia said, okay, we'll overthrow the current, the rightful heir, which is, I think it's al Tikri or something. I don't know. I don't remember the family name, but Mohammed bin Salman, under orders of his father and those loyal to him, kidnapped everyone just about and had them stay at the hotel. I forgot the name of the hotel, and basically blackmailed these people. And that's how he took over the country. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu won his sixth try at the prime ministership under tens of thousands of detractors, and in his cabinet are some of the most rancid, racist, and religious fundamentalists we have ever seen in Israeli history. The United States has a long, sordid history of supporting these people. Heaven forbid we allow Finland to basically give us millions of dollars to influence our Congress. Maybe we'd be in better shape. But nevertheless, let's get back to the groups like Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. Now, this is a group that was born out of the Syrian civil war and was formed in 2017 in January from groups like the Jaish al-Ata, the Tahrir al-Sham, Jaish al-Sunna, and other multiple groups. They all just coexisted into one group, and it was actually under the influence of Abu Jafar Sheikh, who was an Islamic militant who was given support to a CIA operation called Timber Sycamore. And that program was actually supported by Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the United States under the CIA director, David Petraeus, under President Obama, who gave authorization. He was against it at first, but then he gave authorization to Petraeus. Petraeus left, and then the CIA took over, and then they started flooding Syria with weapons. Why'd they do that? Because they're fighting against a perceived enemy, an enemy that is being backed by Russia and Iran, who are considered the axis of evil, right? Iran, they consider the largest exporter of terrorism. That's funny because that's what Saudi Arabia created the groups like Al-Qaeda, Islamic State, Abu Sayyaf, and all these other groups, right? It wasn't Iran. Now, Iran has its own problems. The mullahs are basically ghouls, but they've never invaded another country. They have never exported terrorists to basically attack the United States. They're being under constant threat by Israel, and Israel basically lies about them, saying that they're trying to procure nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, Israel, I think, is the number 4 in the world regarding the procurement of nuclear weaponry. The only countries to have more, the United States, Russia, and I think India or Pakistan, one of those. But Israel's right up there. And they're the only country that doesn't give a foreign nation vet privileges because they don't want you to know how many weapons they have. And they had, according to them, they got to defend themselves. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, under this umbrella in 2017, then started their advancement toward the Assad regime and the YPK under Turkey. The formation of this group, and most of them were assassins and terrorists. This group is basically one of the worst in Syria, although I think, the Islamic State is much worse than the group al-Nusra, which was formerly called Al-Qaeda in Syria. They would be the only groups I would consider, with more members and much worse. But Hayat Tahrir al-Sham is one of the most powerful paramilitary and political organizations in Syria. It is now the number 1. They're part of the provisional government. I mean, I just told you who the president of Syria is. It's Abu Mohammed al-Jolani, the former leader of the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, and Anas Khattab. And now he's the director of the General Intelligence Services. And then you have other areas of the Syrian government that are basically former members of this group too. So you have terrorists creating a caliphate of their own. This is something that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi tried in Damascus and failed because it's the Islamic State in Syria, and they have basically a shelf life. Well, because Hayat Tahrir al-Sham did a favor for the United States and the coalition government and Israel, well, they could get to keep the country because now we're going to go to war with them about 5 years down the line. So if al-Jolani ever sees this, you're next. You're not safe. Usually anybody the United States backs has like a temporary life, shelf life. 5 to 10 years, right? Just like a 9/11 truther, right? 5 years the most, and then they disappear. Well, Jolani is getting funding right now. He's getting support. The media is behind him. But we're going to go to war with terrorism once again. And we're going to go to war against these people because what's going to happen? Well, right now, the United States and Israel and Saudi Arabia are making sure that the United States and Israel are really becoming hated because of what's going on in Gaza, not just in Gaza, but in Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq. For God's sakes, you're goading terrorism. I think that's one of the underlying things the government knows, but they'd rather look away because it serves a greater purpose, right? Perpetual state of war, whether it's against secular governments or religious fascists, right? Doesn't matter. As long as the weapons keep producing under Raytheon and Boeing and LG3 technologies and so on and so on. And as long as the private military industrial complex and other privateers are given carte blanche and millions of dollars, along with the CIA Special Activities Division, the Counterterrorism Center, the diplomatic security services can always go and go into these countries and try to arrest these leaders of these terrorist groups and bring them back to the United States, or kill them there, or hand them over to these governments that basically will do the job for them. Either way, one day Jolani will be next. And there's a great video, if you ever find it, it's on YouTube, where Muammar Gaddafi, the former deposed leader of Libya, once basically went to the Arab Summit League, and I forgot the year, maybe it was like 2009 or something like that, or 2010, right before the Arab civil war or the Arab Spring began, and he warned everybody that why did the United States hang Saddam Hussein? Why didn't we in the Middle East? Why didn't we speak with Hussein and judge him here? Why was it the United States? And he also says, a looming premonition that we could be next. And you can see like Bashir al-Assad's there and he's laughing. Well, I wonder if he was laughing in the following year when the Syrian uprising began, and then the CIA and Timber Sycamore program kicked in, and all of a sudden he began to know, hey, wait a minute. How did the Islamic State get all these brand new Toyotas? Who's buying the oil that they're capturing? I mean, the United States, this is not a conspiracy. The U.S. State Department, along with the Army, and I think, members of the U.S. military, made a secret deal with these fundamentalist groups that we're going to capture the oil fields, but we're going to give it to the opposition party against Assad for a small price. And they did. And some of these groups were, radical fundamentalists who then took that oil and sold it in the black market, and they got weapons through it. Now, who knows where these weapons came from, but they probably came from Saudi Arabia, the United States, and Pakistan, countries that have a vested interest, Jordan, to have a vested Israel, to have a vested interest in seeing Israel's preconceived enemies, as well as Saudi Arabia, for religious reasons, having their Shia minority defeated. And groups like Hayat Tahrir al-Sham should be treated as a terrorist group. And why I continue to berate the progressives, because you called for this. Now, you took out one dictator. I'm not cheering you. We got a whole lot more to go. And for you hypocrites who called for Bashir al-Assad to be overthrown, you voted for worse here in the United States. You voted for Biden, who engaged in 3 wars. The most wartime president in my lifetime besides George W. Bush. And that's saying something. Biden destroyed his reputation, so much so that even the age ranges of 50 to 60 voted Trump. And these are, boomers that hate the evangelical crowd. And so you can't complain. How dare you sit there and say, well, at least we got a thug out of there. He's killing innocent people. I dare you to look what's going on right now There are executions, mass executions. In fact, let's read an article before I even get out of here. Here's an article that was posted today. Security forces executed 52 members of the Alawite minority in Syria. Isn't it supposed to be that these people are afforded a court trial or justice for whatever crimes they? But the crime was simple: they're of a different sect. And under these people, the Salafists or Wahhabis, whatever they want to call themselves, they're terrorists, murderers who use religion as a shield in the same fashion that evangelical Christians who are not Christians, they wear that as a shield. These are hypocrites, illiterates that don't read. Syrian war monitor said Friday that security forces executed 52 members of the Alawite minority in Lakia province, where clashes broke out with government loyal to Bashar al-Assad. And, of course, they're going to say these are loyalists to Assad, because if they really told the truth, well, then the public is going to say, hey, wait a minute, we got to stop this. They're killing innocent people. I mean, they're fucking killing children. There's videos of this. It's not, they don't last long on Twitter because there's a rules based. They can't show gratuitous violence, but there's children being shot in the back of the head. I just saw a video where a guy got shot in the foot. He's pleading for his life, and he's saying, I have a child, and they shoot him in the chest like 5 times. And if you really need to, revisit the past, you go, and I downloaded these videos because I couldn't believe what I was seeing in 2012, 2013, where members of Jabhat al-Nusra and the Islamic State absolutely just committing some of the worst atrocities I've ever seen since Chechnya, Bosnia. Executions in the worst possible form. I mean, just unbelievable. And when the Islamic State took over Syria, there were videos that were made like a Hollywood production. And there was one video where they had 50 people hung upside down and they slit their necks all at the same time. I have a lot of these videos because I wanted to keep them as like a history, a record of what these people are capable of, and just to show the world. Now, of course, YouTube has a guideline where I can't show gratuitous violence, but maybe one day, so soon, I'm going to upload these videos to my Odyssey account because they don't have, restrictions, just to remind people what these terrorists are capable of. So, I'll end it with this. We are going to have to question who we want representing us in government. And if we're going to allow murderers, plunderers, opportunists, grifters, liars to represent us, then that means that we advocate for these things. And you cannot call yourself the bastion of freedom, the bastion of morality, when all this is going on in your name, while all this is happening abroad, where thousands of people are being killed. All right, thank you very much for watching the video, and take care, everybody.